So, my dear teachers, what we're doing today, we're talking about competencies in our teaching methodology, in our way of interacting with the students, and in the way we work in the school as a whole, as a person, as a teacher. So, what exactly is competencies and why we need to learn competencies? So, to begin with, let me first ask any participant to tell me what is a competency. Let's take a response from the participants first.
Dear teachers, you can raise your hand. Those who want to speak. Anyone? Okay, Sunanda Mishra ma'am wants to speak. Ma'am, please unmute yourself and you can talk.
Yes.
Sunanda.
What I understand, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, ma'am. What I understand of competency is the ability to do some tasks successfully.
Okay.
That
The
is
ability to do some tasks successfully. Anjali Arora wants to say something probably.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Very good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you.
Ma'am, competency means attaining or getting some skill that can help you to do better further in life.
Yes.
Okay.
So Sunanda is saying ability and Anjali is saying skill. Perfect. Both the answers. Anybody say anything different from these two words? The ability and the skill?
The capability. Learning. Ma'am, outcome-based learning.
Outcome is learning. Okay.
Which is child-centric and
Child-centric. Great. I'm getting a lot of answers.
The capability, knowledge, and skills, of course.
Yes.
To do things.
And behavior, to attain that skill. Like how positive you are when you want to attain some
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right.
It is the knowledge.
We have got a wonderful number of responses, and if I would have recorded all of them in writing, you would be surprised, my dear teachers, that all of these words which you spoke about, they are littered around in our entire way of working in the school, and you will also find them in this presentation as we move ahead. So let us begin now with competency-based learning, the principles involved in the competency-based learning and what we can do about it to bring in competencies in our children. So look at this picture, and I'm sure that this picture has often come to your mind. You've seen it before, and you might have come across in papers, magazines, journals, etc. So the teacher has too much to say, and the teacher, of course, knows a lot. So teacher can say, I know so much. Child is saying, what is she explaining? What on earth she's talking about? Am I an empty vessel which is to be opened from the head here and then fill in the information, close the lid after every period, and whatever the teacher had to do, she has achieved by filling up the child's mind with knowledge? Obviously, not all of us think about it. And I'm also very sure that none of you think about it like this. In Salwan Education Trust schools, one thing we are all absolutely convinced about, the very fact that we are all gathered here to train ourselves, to participate in professional learning, that shows itself that we care for our students. We care for our teaching. We care for the organization. And that is the perfect start to understand why we need to bring competency-based education system in our organization. Obviously, everybody doesn't have the same pace of learning. And we all know that as human beings. You know that, I know that, everybody knows it. We all have absolutely different ways and different speed at which we learn. Obviously, the children have the same aptitude of learning. How a child A learns to how a child S learns, how a child Z learns. Everybody has different pace. And we have a limited amount of time. We have the school hours. Your period could be 40 minutes, your period could be 50 minutes. And in that, you have to ensure that the particular task that you have to on that particular day accomplish gets done in that period. So what do? How do you make sure that everybody learns? So what we can do in that case, that look at this, another picture. Teacher-directed learning and learner-directed learning. And look at the teacher. Where is she? In teacher-directed. The teacher is at a higher pedestal. The teacher is at a higher pedestal. The students are listening to the teacher. And there's a one-way interaction going on where the teacher is disseminating information and the learners are receiving it. Teaching is going on. Everybody is listening. However, I have a point here. Are you sure that in this class where teaching is going on, learning is also happening? On the other hand, look at the other diagram, the other part, where the teacher is in the center and the students are all around the teacher. And how the interaction is going on, it is not only two-way interaction, the teacher and the learner and the teacher, but also across the learners. The learners are also interacting with each other, like the way we have the peer learning. And I'm absolutely sure that in this system, which is learner-directed, students are learning. So teaching is happening and learning is also happening. So unfortunately, what happens, my dear teachers, many of us assume as teachers that if we have gone to a class and if we have covered the particular amount of curriculum that had to be delivered on that day, teaching is done. However, if teaching is here and the learning is here, do not imagine that teaching and learning are the same thing. They aren't, absolutely not. Teaching is different from learning, and therefore what we need to do is to bridge the gap between the two and then first narrow it and then close it. Then only we can say that learning has finally happened, and learning happens like that. So we have to identify today, by the end of the session, that how much learning happens in our classrooms. To take a simple example here, now this is a professional development session with about 100 people in this session. So what's happening? I'm talking about something, Poonam is saying something, Preeti is saying, all of you are saying something or the other, and we are interacting with each other. And there's a visual cue. There are pictures here to take some idea from and then try and imbibe and internalize it. But my dear teachers, isn't it a fact of life that at the end of this program, which finishes at about 1 o'clock, how do I know that each one of you has exactly understood what I had to say in the same way in which I was trying to convey? So my conveying of something, my trying to instill something may not succeed exactly in the same way as I had intended it to. So then what do? Then what I can only say, suggest to all of you is that when we are emotionally, physically, mentally present in a particular program, totally focused and concentrated on it, do not worry that how much you are able to recall at the end of it, because the fact that you were there and you were listening, it is going to have a long-term impact. And if not today, tomorrow, another day, maybe another month, another week, these things will automatically get into our minds. And then when we would like to implement them, surprisingly, they will be there with us, and we shall know that this is what we were trying to learn. So, my dear teachers, let us now take the first step in competency-based learning. And that first step is to reduce the gap between teaching and learning. And to reduce the gap, what you need is to build competencies, not only in the way you interact with the students, but also in the way the students learn from you. That is what is our goal for today. And why do we need lifelong learning? What's the reason for that? Obviously, the fact that you're all teachers and you have chosen this field on your own. You wanted to be amidst students, teaching them, helping them out to chart out a successful path for their life. In fact, my dear teachers, you're all lifelong learners already. If you thought that you weren't, let me correct it. You're all learners. And why are you learners? Not only because you participate in the professional learning opportunities, not only that, but also because you are every day in the classroom, every day interacting with the students, delivering on the lessons. And don't think that if for the last 20 years you've been talking about the same thing, you are still learning, because every year there is a different set of students. So what if you're teaching alphabets or poetry or rhymes to the students and you've been doing that year after year, year after year? Doesn't matter. The fact that you are with a new set of students every year, the fact that you come with new energy, new passion, you learn so much. Empowered you are, and what you try to do, you empower the others. The other people present in the class who are young children, but with your initiative and inspiration, they are going to be empowered for life. With your support. You all know, you all come from the backgrounds of B.Ed, NTT, and so many other degrees. So what you already know are the pedagogical principles. You don't have to think that I have to again learn it, because you have learned them. But what is missing, teachers, like it or do not, that these pedagogical principles that we had learned once in our B.Ed programs, we have perhaps forgotten them. We've forgotten them, and we do not know what happened to all those wonderful theories of learning that we had learned once upon a time, where we learned about Vygotsky, and we learned about John Dewey, and we learned about Maria Montessori. We learned so much, but where have they gone? And why they have gone somewhere? Why have we not implemented them into our way of teaching in the classroom? These principles of learning, these pedagogical attributes, they will never go out of date. They will always be useful to all of us. Let us spend some time every year to revisit them and learn from them. So let us have absolutely clear and explicit explanations and expectations for our students, and therefore for all of us. Now look at this table. How CBE is different from the traditional system of education. Look at the outcomes. We all have the learning outcomes in our curriculum, in our lesson plans. We know that what our child should be able to learn at the end of a program, at the end of a period, isn't it? So we memorize it. We memorize the entire academic content in traditional way of learning. But in a competency-based system of learning, we demonstrate the learned knowledge and skill. And you do that. I've seen it happening in the school all the time, that It is not enough for children to be taught a particular lesson. We are trying to make it as realistic, as practical, as everyday as possible. And this is why, because we have a growth mindset. We grow. I'd like to give you an example here, which I gave yesterday also to the other group, which I was talking to. Now, this is an example from, not from a school teaching in particular, but nevertheless, it is about a teacher. And God bless his soul, but I would still like to give his example for you to understand that how a fixed mindset and how a growth mindset works differently from each other. Now, in the university, I had just got into the university to do BA honors in geography. And I was very excited and very curious because I absolutely loved my subject. I was extremely passionate about my subject. And then the paper, which I particularly liked, was physical geography, geomorphology. And I was looking forward to a wonderful teaching and learning experience in the college. And it was a very reputed college of Delhi University. And then what happened? Within, I think, a week of classes, I started losing my motivation in the class. And why was that? The teacher who was teaching us geomorphology, he was an old teacher and he'd been teaching probably for 30, 35 years in the same college. He was a very experienced, very respected, very nice person, but how he taught. And I would like to give as an example, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers and say that, I'm talking about a teacher, but it is an example for me forever, that this is how you can kill teaching in the classroom. I'll give you an example here. Now, he had photocopied pages, so something which was as thick as this book. So you can see, it was as thick as this book. It was spiral bound. And as you can see, these pages are white in color. Now the pages he had in his spiral bound handwritten notes, obviously it was not the time of computers, I'm talking about more than 3 decades back. So, or maybe 3.5 decades back. So then he had handwritten notes, absolutely yellow in color, tattered, in a miserable situation. And he used to open the book and say, all right, start writing. And we would start writing because he would dictate and we'll write, he'll dictate and we'll write. And we continue to do that. He finished the entire paper in the entire year by doing that. And we were completely demoralized in his class. We didn't know what to do. We looked here and we looked there and we looked at our class fellows and we asked each other, how are we going to learn? And what is it teaching us? We do not understand anything. On the other hand, there was another teacher. Now that paper which he taught was economic and political geography. It wasn't it really wasn't my cup of tea, because everybody has a certain liking for a particular paper or subject. However, when that teacher came, oh my God, I can tell you that the teacher had to just walk into the class, that professor, and we were all completely engrossed in every single word he spoke. He spoke so well and he taught us so beautifully, taking us everywhere around the world. And those of us who were, at least I wasn't, those of us who were traditional kind of students, they used to wonder, what is Sir teaching? We don't even understand. Is he talking about the curriculum or is he talking about something else? But teachers, the way he taught us, he took us to the flight of fantasy and the flight of fancy everywhere across the world. And we learned our economic and political geography like nobody else could have learned. Imagine the paper which I liked so much, geomorphology, killed by bad teaching. And the paper which I thought that wasn't my cup of tea, it was taught so well. Because one professor had a fixed mindset of teaching and another had the growth mindset. He was so up to date with everything that was happening till yesterday, till the morning, that he actually taught us with a way, with a system which we could never forget. And I think that was my first foray into understanding that how teacher can actually spoil learning by the very mindset through which the teacher is progressing. It wasn't a B.Ed class. It was a BA honors class. I did B.Ed later. I did after MA. So that means it was 5 more years to go before I did my B.Ed. But I had learned it spontaneously as a young student, that if I were ever a teacher, I would not like to be a teacher like the teacher A or teacher 1, because